Today we're going to classify triangles. Our first thing we need to do when we classify triangles is know what our categories are. So our first category here is a right triangle, which is a triangle with one right angle or a 90-degree angle. As you can see right here in our picture, we have this angle right here, which would be titled ACB, would be a right angle. I'm going to write this off to the side here, that our angle, that's our angle sign, ACB. We could also call it our angle BCA or angle C. R is a right angle right here. We can tell it's a right angle on a triangle if you create a box in the corner and it makes a perfect square. Then we also know it's a right angle. A right triangle always will have one right angle and two acute angles, or angles that measure less than 90 degrees. Our next one that we have here is an obtuse triangle. An obtuse triangle is a triangle with one obtuse angle or an angle between 90 and 180 degrees. So as you can see from our model right here, we have an angle of 100 degrees. So this would be our obtuse angle. And with an obtuse triangle, you have one angle that's obtuse and two angles that are acute. And that forms an obtuse triangle. Our third type of triangle is an acute triangle, which is a triangle with three acute angles or angles less than 90 degrees. So all three angles have to be acute. So here we have 60 degrees, 50 degrees, and 70 degrees. All three of those are acute angles because they are less than 90 degrees. On our next slide here, we just have three triangles drawn out, and we have our pictures up at the top to kind of remind us. So once again, an obtuse triangle has one obtuse angle. If we look at this one right here, this would be our obtuse angle. Because if we were to draw a box for our 90-degree mark, it doesn't fit 90 degrees and it's kind of out of our box here. As you can see, it's kind of coming out of our box this direction instead of going straight up. So that is going to be an obtuse angle. On the second one here, we have, it talks us a right has one right angle. We're going to draw our little box here. If we draw our box, and we can see it's almost a perfect square, in this case, this would be a right angle, or a right triangle. And this one over here, on the far side, we have an acute angle up here, or acute triangle up here. And it says acute has three acute angles. Now this one down here doesn't look exactly like the one up top, but we can see that we have all three of these are acute angles. And once again, we can check with our box if we want to. Oh, that doesn't create a square. That doesn't create a square. Oh, that didn't work very well. Yeah. Anyway, as you can see, it doesn't create a square. So that is not going to be a right triangle. And it's, as you can see, the angle curves inward here. No, shoot. The angle curves into our square, so we know it's going to be an acute angle. So now we're going to classify these triangles as obtuse, acute, or right. And for this purposes, I'm going to use, for obtuse, I'm going to use an O. And for acute, I'm going to use an A. And for right, I'm going to use an R. So acute, obtuse, acute, or right. So once again, I'm going to use the box method to determine these. If I create a box here, now some of these are not going to be perfect because it's kind of hard to draw these, so they're not perfectly straight lines as most triangles would have, but you'll have to excuse that. So we're going to draw our box. If we draw our box there, it is a perfect, it's almost a perfect box there, so we're going to say that that is a right angle. So we're going to label that with an R for right angle. This one over here, we can kind of see this one right here. It kind of comes inward, it comes inward, it comes inward. I can tell just by looking at this one that it is not going to, a box won't form in each corner. And so it is going to be an acute triangle. So I'm going to write, an A for acute. Now this one that's in between the two, right here, it looks like it has one acute angle, two acute angles, but this one's kind of hard to see. I'm going to try drawing the box again. And when I draw the box, it actually looks pretty good as a square. So we're going to call that one, once again, a right angle. Then we're going to come down. We'll come down to this one down here, and we'll look at this one here next. Now we have an acute angle, we have an acute angle, and this one's kind of tricky to see, so let's go ahead and draw the box there. When you draw the box, it does not look completely square. So because it doesn't look completely square, and this angle here starts coming out more, it kind of comes out instead of going straight up here, we're going to call that one an obtuse angle. So we're going to put in our O for obtuse. Now, this one right here looks like an acute angle, less than 90. It looks like a less than 90. And it kind of curves inward, so it's less. So I'm going to say that that one is probably acute. Now, acute's kind of funny because when you think of acute, we have an A. Inside that A is, inside the capital A, is an acute triangle right there. So it's kind of easy to see that it is acute, and we can remember acute off that capital A. And this next one over here, we can see this one here, it curves outward and then goes straight across here. So I'm guessing it's going to be obtuse. I'm going to do my little square in there to double check. It curves outward on my square, so I'm going to say that this one is obtuse. This one down here looks more acute. So it looks like our A, so I'm going to say that one there is acute. This one over here is pretty badly drawn right here. But let's try our box in there. It looks pretty square, so for our purposes, I'm going to say it's a right. And then, of course, this big one here, right here, looks pretty obtuse. It curves outward. If I were to draw a box, it would curve outward. The other way I could tell is by drawing a line coming up. And you can see that it's not quite right. It's going to be the opposite of right, which will be obtuse. So we're going to change that one to obtuse. And that is how we classify these triangles. So as you can see, we have two figures here. We have figure A, B, C, D, and we have figure E, F, H, G. Now what we're going to do here is I'm going to divide this figure A, B, C, D in half. And I'm going to divide figure A, B, C, D in half from this corner to this corner. Now as you can see, I have created two triangles. Of these two triangles, we're going to look at them and we're going to see what angles we have. So, first of all, I'm going to name the triangle. We name the triangle by drawing a small triangle. And then we go in order. So I'm going to start with A, and then B, and then C, and then it would go back to A. So that's our label for this. Then we're going to look up here at this triangle here, A, B, C. So since we're looking at A, B, C, I'm actually going to go around it a little bit with some red there so we can kind of see what we're looking at here. As you can see, we have an acute angle. So we're going to name off the angles is angle A. Angle A is acute. Angle B is obtuse. It's not quite a right angle. If I were to draw a line there, I could see it curves out from there. I don't have a full box. So B is going to be obtuse. And then if we look at angle C is going to be another acute angle. And so as you can see, we have now labeled it and we've determined what it would be. Let's look over here at figure EFHG. At figure EFHG, if I divide this figure in half from corner to corner, like so, I have what looks to be a right angle, or two right triangles. Now, once again, I would have to double check. I can double check by measuring it or by doing our box. We're going to do our box. As you can see, my box, that box, I didn't really draw the first line very straight. So I'm going to redraw my box. And I'm going to come straight up and straight over. And as you can see, once again, I screwed up my box. I'll go straight down. There we go. And we go. As you can see, it's pretty straight. In this one, if I had drawn a perfect box like I was trying to do, then you would see that this would be then a right angle or a right triangle. So I could then label this as angle or as triangle FHG. I could say triangle FHG is right. Because it would be right. A right triangle. Okay, so on this one we have our triangle, and our triangle we are going to name it as triangle ABC. Now we call it triangle ABC because when we start up here we go A, B, C. Now, we could call it CBA, we could call it BCA, whatever, as long as we have it named as our triangles. That's the triangle we're talking about. We could have a completely different triangle down below here, like such, that could be labeled EFG. And so then this here tells us that we're talking about this specific triangle right here, and not this lower one down here. So now we're going to classify the angles. And so we're going to classify the angles of triangle ABC. So once again, I'm going to write the triangle name here, A, B, C, and we're going to classify the angles here. So I'm going to call angle A, that is going to be this angle right here. I am going to say that angle A is an acute angle. So I'm going to say it is acute. A-C-U-T-E, acute. Angle B, is also acute. And angle C is also acute. So ABC, triangle ABC, would be a completely acute triangle. Now, if I were going to classify our other triangle that I just drew in here, we'd have triangle EFG. And if I wanted to classify its angles, I could say angle, using our angle sign, angle E. I could also write angle E as angle GEF, would be an acute angle. I could then say angle F is going to be larger than 90 degrees and less than 180 degrees, so it would be obtuse. And then I could say angle G is going to be acute. And that is how I could classify these angles, and by writing which triangle I'm actually talking about, or naming the exact triangle that I'm talking about, and listing what angles they have. Now, we know that this one's acute because it has 3 acute angles. This one here would be obtuse because it has 1 obtuse angle. So we would label this one with an O for obtuse, or write out that it is an obtuse triangle. And that is how we classify triangles.